Hey everyone, welcome back. For those who don't know me, my name is Peter, aka Pete the Pilot, and I am currently flying a Boeing 767 for a major airline all around the world. Today I'm going to talk about a few of the different flying jobs that you can get once you become a pilot. I'm going to go through my experience, kind of tell you the pros and cons of each. Hopefully you'll learn something. As always, any specific questions, drop a comment below or DM me on Instagram. So the first paid flying job that I got was as a CFI, or Certificated Flight Instructor. That job definitely came with a bunch of pros and cons. I know a lot of people get that job or have that job mostly to build their hours in order to get to the airlines. However, it's definitely a job that you can do as a career. In no particular order, I would say the first pro is you're home every single night. So you're not flying to Minneapolis or to China or to Paris. You're going to be in your bed every single night. After each lesson, you get to be home. And that's a huge benefit that you're not going to get at most flying jobs. Number two, I would say, is your schedule. You get to make your own schedule. So if I had a tea time on a Thursday at 3 p.m., I didn't schedule any students at 3 p.m. on Thursday so I could go golf. Being able to create your own schedule, have the days off that you want to have off, is something that you'll probably also won't get at any other job. Next, I would say one of the benefits of being a flight instructor is the fact that you get to actually fly an airplane. So you're generally going to be flying in smaller general aviation aircraft, such as Cessna 172s or Piper Cherokees, and you're actually physically flying the airplane. What I mean by that is once you get to the big leagues and you're flying more of these bigger Boeing, Airbus jets, you're more of a manager than a pilot. The airplane does most of the work. So what we really do as managers of these big jumbo jets are we take off, we push a button, and we're kind of managing the flight parameters. When you're flying as a flight instructor, you're teaching people how to fly, so you're physically going to be maneuvering the airplane. It's definitely something that I look back on and go, wow, that was pretty cool. Cons of flight instructing. Again, no particular order. Number one, probably the biggest one would have to be the money. I know most flight instructors start around like $15, $20 an hour and top out around the $35 to $40 an hour range. The airlines definitely pay a lot more than that, so the money would probably be the biggest con. Next would be the kind of monotony of the flying. You're usually going to be taking off and landing at the same airports and going to the same general practice area to teach your students how to fly. So it can get kind of repetitive and boring. And this one was just for me personally. I'm not a big teacher or instructor, so having to sit in front of a whiteboard and teach someone the rules of flying and the regulations of flying, and then constantly having to talk to them about how to fly, it just wasn't my passion. So for someone who doesn't love teaching, certainly CFI isn't going to be your ultimate career choice. Another job available that you might be interested in, or another path that you might want to take, is to fly for a corporation or be a corporate pilot or fly private jets. If you've seen some of my other videos, you've probably heard me say this before, but I'll repeat it. It's probably the most fun I ever had flying. I'll start with the main reason why I loved it so much. Number one would have to be the layovers. So instead of having the usual 15, maybe 24-hour layovers, I had some layovers that lasted 3 days, 4 days, sometimes 8 days. So for example, I'd fly from Teterboro down to the Bahamas, and I'd be there for 8 days before I flew that person back up to New York. Now for 8 days, I had my hotel paid for, I had a rental car, all expenses paid for, and I was getting paid to go on the beach, stay out of trouble, play golf. I was like, how is this real life? But it was freaking awesome. I absolutely loved it. Second pro for flying corporate, Part 91, Part 135 would have to be the diversity of the flying. So some of the days you're flying from Teterboro to West Palm Beach. Next day you're flying from Florida to Seattle. The next day you're flying from Seattle up to Vancouver, Canada. Then you're flying down to Mexico. It just differs so much. Very rarely flying to the same place multiple times. Another pro, at least for me, was the people I got to fly. So I personally flew for an individual, him and his family, but when he wasn't using it, he chartered it out to other wealthy individuals. So I got to fly some celebrities, some athletes. Shout out Andy Pettit, shout out Usher, shout out Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight. So it was really cool. I personally get starstruck when I see these people that I admire and watch on TV. So it was really fun and exciting to talk to them. Some of them were super cool. Some of them allowed pictures, autographs, some of them not so cool. But I won't get into those details. Now for the cons. First and foremost would have to be the schedule. So the schedule really isn't your schedule, it's the person you're flying for's schedule. So if the owner of the airplane needed to take his family to Las Vegas for the weekend, boom, you're going to Las Vegas that weekend. For the most part, have a schedule ahead of time. However, it really can change in a drop of a hat and you're kind of at their beckoning call. Next, I would say, for lack of a better term, recession proof. For most people, when a recession hits or they lose money or their net worth drops, the things they're going to get rid of first are the things that are non-essential. Owning a private jet and flying private are definitely non-essential for most people. They can revert to first class or just not traveling as much. So their private jet and the pilots that go with it are usually the first to go. Next would be the pay and benefits. Again, I'm just going to relay what I personally experienced as a first officer. Was between about $65,000 to $85,000 a year. The captain was between $110,000 $130,000 a year. Don't get me wrong, it's great money. I just comparing it to the airlines where you can cap out a lot higher. Next would be the benefits. You didn't really have a retirement. I mean, we got health benefits. It wasn't as good as the airline package. And as far as retirement, there really wasn't any. There was no 401k, there was no pension, and there certainly wasn't any stock options. Last but not least, as far as the con list go for flying corporate, I have to say is kind of being away from home. So I might have thought of it as a pro to be in Turks and Caicos or the Bahamas for 8 days. But if you have a family life or you needed to be home for some reason, being gone that long and not really having a set schedule would definitely be a con in your lifestyle. The next flying position to make a career that I'm personally currently doing is flying for the airlines. And now I want to say airlines, especially here in the US, there's definitely a spectrum. There's regional airlines, the low-cost carrier airlines, legacy airlines. I personally flew for regionals, a low-cost carrier, a legacy passenger company, and now a legacy cargo company. So if you do have specific questions, feel free to reach out. However, I'm going to just go through kind of my general pros and cons list for the airlines. I would have to say pro number one, flying for the airlines, is you kind of get to fly the airplanes that you see every day around the airports, around the world. The Boeing 777s, the Airbus A350s, maybe the Airbus A380s. You're only going to be able to fly those at the airlines. Next would be the pay. So I know captains that are flying at legacy airlines that are making anywhere between $250 upwards of $700,000 a year. Yeah, you heard that correctly. The numbers can get crazy. The bigger the aircraft you fly, depending on your company, you can really, really make some big bucks. And along with pay comes a retirement. So a lot of these US airlines come with really good 401k. Some of them even have pensions and retirement plans that will really set you up for the future. Next pro, I'd have to say, is the schedule. So normally airline pilots get their schedule a month in advance, so you can kind of plan accordingly as far as if you have any events coming up. For example, I'm filming this video October 27th. I already know in the month of November, I'm off for the week of Thanksgiving. So I'm gonna be eating turkey, drinking some wine, having some beer, watching some football. I won't be flying. It's definitely a huge perk. And also with the schedule is the amount of days a month we work. So I average between 12 and 16 days a month. As far as I'm concerned, it's a pretty good deal. Next, and one of the reasons a lot of people love flying for the airlines are the flight benefits. So yourself, your spouse, your travel companion, domestic partner usually always get to fly for free on that airline, along with other airlines as well that they reciprocate with. So you get to travel not only around the States, but around the world flying for free. So that can be a really, really huge, awesome perk. Now for the cons. Depending on the airline and your schedule and your seniority, being away from home can be really, really difficult. So if I'm flying 12 to 16 days a month, I'm usually gone from my home 12 to 16 days a month. I'm usually not here. There are airlines that you can manipulate your schedule to be home on those days, as in doing out and back flights, but for the most part, you're going to be away from home on days that you're working. Working holidays. People travel on the holidays, whether it's 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. When you're a junior, when you're first starting out that airline, it's a good chance, since everyone else wants to be off that day, you're probably going to be working on those holidays, which can be a huge bummer. And I know I put this in the pro list, but your schedule. So yeah, we might only be working 12 to 16 days a month. However, when you're a junior, those days that you might be working not only are holidays, but weekends, days that you need to be home for whatever reason. So the schedule, depending on your seniority, remember this, seniority is everything in the airlines. Depending on your seniority, your schedule can be a pro or a con, depending on when you got hired. Another paid flying job that you can do as a career would be the military. I personally have no experience in this whatsoever. I thought about it when I was in my early to mid 20s, but then I was reading some pamphlet about how you had to shave your head. to join the reserves, and I was like, there's no way in heck I'm doing that. So I immediately dropped it. But I do have friends that were in it. So if you do have really specific questions, maybe I can get them in on my vlog, podcast, channel, whatever the heck this is called. But unfortunately, I have zero experience in the military, so I can't answer any of those questions. To wrap it all up, whether you decide to become a full-time flight instructor, fly for the corporate, airlines, military, make sure you do it for the right reason. Don't do it because someone on some stupid YouTube channel said, oh, I can make this much money flying. Don't do it because your neighbor flies this jet and they say the benefits are great. Do it for what you think is the best reason, because I can tell you this, the amount of time, money, training, the days away from home, the studying, it can be grueling, it can be lonely, it can get miserable. And if you're not doing it for the right reasons, you're not going to last long, you're not going to enjoy the ride. So pick the one that fits you and your lifestyle the best. As always, specific questions, drop a comment below. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. Hit me up with a thumbs up. DM me on Instagram with any questions you may have. Also, please critique the video below if you have any specific things you want to know for next time. I'd love to hear some feedback. You can even give me some negative comments. I promise you, I'm from New Jersey. I got thick skin. It won't hurt me as long as it's not too mean. But again, appreciate you listening. Hope you enjoyed something. Hope you learned something. And I'll see you next time.